Mr. Chairman, can we do
Stockwood.
declaration of interest, please?
Sorry, any declaration of interest?
Nope.
Councillor Mrs. Stockwood, then Councillor Francis Brunner-Horan.
Thank you, Chairman. Item 21/00929 full daisy chain and the listed building consent for the same property. I declare non-pecuniary interest.
That's noted by the clerk. Councillor Brunner-Horan.
So the application for 25 the banks, I know the applicant, so I declare a non-pecuniary interest and I won't take any part in the discussion or vote.
Is there any more declaration of interest, councillors? In that case, then we go on to item 3, which is sign the minutes of the meeting held on 9th of March. Any objections?
Nope.
Right, I'll take that as accepted. Item 4, to consider planning applications received from Rushcliffe Borough Council. The first one we have is 21/00503 full, 31 Western Avenue. Erection of 2-storey side single-storey rear and front extension, new front porch, external alterations including application of render, new driveway and new 2.1 metre high fence. Anybody commenting on these?
No objections.
In that case, I would take it to Deputy Clerk that one we've got no objection to. Just for a moment, as Councillor John Stockwood's just come back, we've gotten to a declaration of interest. Have you got anything you wish to add to that?
No, Mr. Chair. I'm not aware that.
Okay. We're on to the second one now, which is 21/00706 full, 10 Dark Lane, Bingham, single-storey rear extension. Does anybody wish to comment?
No objections.
Right.
No objections.
In that case, then, Deputy Clerk, no objection to that one. The next one is 21/00839 full, 25 The Banks, Bingham, construction of bespoke orangery, resubmission of 20/03277 full.
Again,
Anybody?
no objection.
No objection.
No objections.
In that case, then, that one will take it as no objection. The next one is 21/00669 full, Buggins Cottage, Chapel Lane, Bingham. Demolition of existing dwelling and outbuildings and construction of 2 dwellings with erection of shared garage.
Just my only comment, Mr. Chair, is there is a public right of way that runs to the front of that property currently, but I think it's been moved slightly to the boundaries. So on that basis, I've got no objection.
Any other comments?
Yeah, I'd like to comment on this one.
Councillor Bird?
I'm very pleased to see that there'll be 6 new parking spaces instead of the original 2. I was actually spoken to by a member of the public who was concerned that this old cottage was being knocked down. I can't actually see anything specific to stop this happening, but in going through the paperwork very carefully, where it talks about the sewage outlet, the box that's ticked is unknown how it's going to be done. There's a whole choice there of things like, you know, cesspit, etc.
Yeah.
But it's ticked as unknown, and I was quite surprised at that because it's in fact saying we don't know how this is going to be done. And I think there is a concern about that.
It may be building regulations, but has Councillor John Stockwood got any comments on that particular point?
Well, I hadn't picked it up from the application form myself, but it would be for the applicant to make sure that the sewage arrangements are made. If you wish to comment that you want to make that you want this matter to be addressed, you just say that's the comment you wish to make. So it's whatever the councillors feel are material considerations in the determination of whether or not they think the application is acceptable. So if councillors are concerned about where the sewage might go, I think that's definitely a material consideration if people want to raise it.
Councillor John Lewis.
You're muted, John. You're on mute, John. John, can't hear you.
Should be able to now. I'd just like to say in support of what Councillor Bird said, that it is a matter of concern if there's a material aspect. Now, and this is what's called a material consideration in planning terms, and if that's been ticked unknown, so it's unknown what arrangements will be made for the disposal of sewage, then that is very much a matter that we should be commenting on. So I would support the proposal that we make that comment.
Do all councillors
second
agree that this comment should go through with the application?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. That's what...
So, Deputy Clerk, the comments raised by councillors Bird and Lewis to go with the application. Otherwise, do we have no objection?
No.
In that case, with the comments made.
I personally would object, because I think for a planner to say we don't know what we're going to do is effectively saying planning is pointless. So I'm objecting to that one.
Any other objections?
Well, I think I would support, if Councillor Bird wants to actually recommend that we object on that basis, then I would follow that objection. I would agree with it. So I'll second the proposal that we actually object, because there's insufficient information about proposals for sewage disposal. I think that would normally be fatal to a planning application.
A motion has been made. Well, obviously, the Deputy Clerk would like to call a vote on that, as we've got two in favour of objecting. Is there any other people wishing to back this motion?
Well, my apologies, Councillor Shelton, Mr. Chair. Yeah, I'll be honest, when I looked at the application, I absolutely didn't notice that point at all. It completely passed me by. I did look at the boundary. I think it's a fair point. You know, if there's no provision for taking the waste from the property, then clearly there is a serious flaw in the application itself. So, you know, if the view or the feeling of the meeting is that we object, then we object. I'll support it. I'll support the objection. We go to a vote, presumably.
Yeah, we'll have to do on this one. Councillor Holland.
Yeah, thank you. We've had knowledge of this agenda for more than a week, I think, and you know we've had over a week to raise basic questions. And I myself, personally, I'm not happy with, you know, raising things at the meeting that could have been resolved in all the time that we've had the agenda. And it's a fair question. I accept that. I suspect the box that was ticked is more commonly ticked than perhaps some of us know. And my feeling is that it would be very unusual to have plans being passed by the borough without any knowledge of the appropriate arrangements for sewage. my guess is, and I must say this is a hunch, it's probably something that is under building regulations, and that there might need to be some further investigative work to comply. But on that basis, I'm not going to vote against the application. I'm not going to object, because I think actually this is a routine matter that will be resolved, as the process goes along. So I won't be supporting the objection.
Councillor Mrs. Stockwood.
Thank you, Chairman. Actually, Councillor Perdue-Horan has said exactly what I was going to say. These matters are usually picked up the borough under building regs, and consulting the equivalent authority that deals with sewage is there would be a statutory consultee, so that will automatically go ahead, I would have thought. Thank you.
I'll let Councillor Wallace come back in, and then Councillor Mooney.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I wouldn't normally come back for the second bite, but I do wonder, Councillor Perdue-Horan, I see your point about perhaps raising the point previous to the meeting, but surely that is the absolute core purpose of this meeting, to consider the application. We don't do that in advance, we do it in the meeting this evening. So I don't think there's anything fundamentally wrong with a councillor raising a concern that he has with an application, certainly since at least two of us, I know Councillor Stockwood and myself, both missed that point on the application itself. So I don't see anything in principle that says there's anything objectionable in the action that has been proposed this evening. And in fact, the correct way to deal with it, sure, were we to reject the application tonight because we've got some concerns about the drainage system, is that the applicant resubmits. And it's quite possible that it was missed at the borough as well. Certainly, as I say, at least two of us didn't see it at all this evening. So I don't think there's anything in principle that says that we simply have to nod this through, even if it's a matter of routine, because if that were the case, then I return to Councillor, my apologies, Councillor Bird's comment that you have to ask then the question, what's the purpose of having this meeting at all if all we do is nod everything through on the basis that it's a routine matter? That seems fundamentally against the principle why we're all here this evening and giving up our free time to talk.
Councillor Mooney, did you want to comment on this?
Yes, please. I understand I'm not on the committee and I don't get a vote and things. However, in my experience of a different planning committee, I think it's perfectly acceptable to acknowledge if you've got concerns about a planning application that's come up. And if these things are missing from the plans, then it's absolutely right that we should note them and make sure that the Borough Council is aware of our concerns. But that doesn't mean we have to overall object to the plans. We don't overall object. We just have concerns of a certain matter. And if we make those concerns known to the Borough Council, then they won't miss it and they can take it into their considerations. So I think probably the most sensible way forward, although I appreciate I'm not on the committee, would be to make sure that we note our concerns, but as long as they're addressed, we don't have any objection, which surely is the truth of the matter, is it not?
Oh, yes.
Councillor Wayne Stapleton.
Okay.
Yeah, I believe if you just note it, and I'm sure it's going to be sorted out, it's sewage. It's going to be sorted. I think we just note it and go forth with it, I believe.
Well, may I speak, Miss Councillor?
You may, Councillor Lewis.
Yeah, I think that the point made by Councillor Bird is a very important one. We're not here just to note things and make comments. If we feel that something ought to be rejected, then we ought to do it. And the question of sewage disposal is a material consideration from a planning point of view. We are all personally responsible for decisions which committees of which we are part make, and we all have to be in a position to justify those decisions. So I think that the proposal has been made that we object or vote to refuse the application has been made, and therefore, if that's about to be not put forward, I would ask for a recorded vote on this, please.
I can assure you that the vote will be taken on this. Deputy Clerk, as there's three members, I think if we go through all the names on this one, whether they accept the recommendation made by Councillor Bird or object or do not accept the recommendation. If it's not accepted, then the comment goes through with whatever decision is made. If it's not, the objection is not held.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, as Councillor Lewis has requested a recorded vote, I'll place that in minutes. So just to be clear, Council are voting on the proposal to object to the application. Councillor Bird, are you for or against?
I'm for objecting.
Councillor Lewis?
I'm for.
Councillor Purdue-Horan?
I'm against Councillor Bird's objection.
Councillor Shelton?
I'm against.
Councillor Stapleton?
Against.
Councillor John Stockwood?
Against.
Councillor Maureen Stockwood?
Against.
And Councillor Wallace? Oh, I can't hear you, Tony, you're muted.
My apologies, I'm for.
So the objection did not carry. So if the chair could confirm what the committee wished to proceed with, please.
I believe that with no objection, but highlighting the fact that what is happening to the sewage situation, it most likely would be building regulations, I would have thought, but it is worth at least highlighting it so that Rushcliffe are aware of it. Right, the next one is 21/00929 full, and there's another one that goes with this one, which is 21/00930 listed building consent, which is 9 Daisy Chain, 19 Longacre, Bingham. Do you have anybody wishing to comment on this one?
Councillor John Stockwood.
Councillor Stockwood?
Well, speaking to both this application, the second application, which is the LBC, which we call a listed building consent, both for 19 Longacre, Bingham. Looking at the property history, we're familiar with the fact that this application came forward without a listed building consent previously, and we questioned whether or not, I think, as a council, there should be a listed building consent application, and now there is one. Looking back through the property history, apparently the reason the one was one before previously was it was invalidly submitted. So welcome the fact that that's now been resolved. Also looking at the property history, there was a prior plan for this property that was put forward, and the conservation area officer gave some detailed response to the prior application. This is I think it's a listed building, that's why it's got a listed building consent, and it's I think it's grade 2, and it has a story to tell in its use through time, and its different uses through time, and there are some original features that are still in place, and steps can be taken to preserve or conserve, or to preserve and enhance the elements of original features and the elements within the building and externally that tell the story of the history of the building. It's quite a particular point in the conservation area as well. Ultimately, what it came to is that the prior proposal, the conservation area officer felt that it had caused identifiable harm to the conservation area, and there was a problem with it. So I welcome the fact that it appears that the applicant is resubmitting, having addressed the issues being put forward by the conservation area officer. Now, there's a lot of detail in the report that was provided on the previous application. So I think the key issue here is it was all about, is it conserving, or is it in preserving and enhancing the history of and the historic aspects of and the heritage aspects of that property. So in that sense, though I'm not an expert on it, I do think that having, very much it would be appropriate to comment that we support that the conservation area officer is doing its views be taken on board very strongly, and that we do want to see the heritage aspects of this property preserved and enhanced. But overall, the principle of development, the fact that somebody now wants to turn this into a residential property, I think is acceptable. I think we considered it was acceptable before, but it was mostly about making sure that that listed building consent has a very strong schedule of works and clear explanation of how the changes are going to be made to this historic building. So that was the comment I'd like to make, and I'd like to, if we submit no objection, I'd like to be with a comment that says we very strongly encourage the planning officer to consider the views of the conservation area officer to make sure everything done is possible to preserve the history or enhance the historic nature of this building. Thank you.
Do you have any objections to this application, councillors? Councillor Wallace, put your microphone back on.
My apologies. Thank you. I need to stop muting myself. No, I was actually just agreeing with Councillor Stockwood. I think the points were well made. So I think we should support those comments.
So is it the view of you all, no objection subject to Councillor Stockwood's comments?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. In that case, then we go to item 21/01095 full, 2 Aspin Close, Bingham, proposed single-storey front extension to form garage.
Again, I've got no objection.
No, nothing on that.
No
Is that the
objection.
view of you all? In that case, that one's no objection. This particular one, we've got a Rushcliffe reference for it and also a county reference. To save time, I'm going to suggest we take both these at the same point, which is 21/01046 CTY, and the county reference is for the same item is FR3/4258. It's the same area, same application, so we might as well deal with those two together. That's construction of a new 315 place primary school and 26 place nursery over 2 phases. Any comments?
Councillor Bird.
Yes, if I may speak.
Councillor Bird?
I think this is a very worthy thing, and I'm very much in favour of it, but I'm a little bit concerned about the flood report, in particular paragraph 5.3.
Can I just stop you there, Councillor Bird? There is 2 flood reports. One was worrying, and the second one was an update on their opinion of it, and I believe that one was more satisfactory as it had further information.
I think I am talking about the more recent one.
Right.
In paragraph 5.3, it claims the flood risk is low for the school as 1, and claims that the likelihood of flooding is 0.01 for every 100 years. So don't think there's any problem with that. But in the later paragraph, it says, however, the risk to sites adjacent to the site is high, greater than 3.3% each year. Now, 3.3% each year is very low, but that does mean that the should get flooded roughly every 33 years. Now, it's site adjacent to the school, so I know it's not the actual school, but it does concern me.
So, other than that concern raised by Councillor Bird, do we have any objection to that going through without that comment? Councillor
John Stockwood. Can I speak, please? Councillor
Yes.
John Stock. Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Chair. The one point that I saw notice raised by the community was about the bus diversions. Does anybody have any further information about the fact that there's a suggestion in the transport plan that the bus be diverted up to the housing estate, because then it wouldn't run through the west side of Bingham in the way that it currently does? Just a concern that making sure that all of Bingham, both the new and the old part, continues to have a quality public service transport available to everyone.
Councillor Prudenhoran, would you like to respond to that?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. What I can categorically confirm to you in this meeting is that the Trent Barton service will continue along Longacre, through the traffic lights and along Nottingham Road towards Nottingham. It is a commercial service, and I mean, basically, apart from the license to operate, it has to be a viable commercial service, and at the moment that is the viable commercial route. There may be negotiations later to provide a further service to service north of Bingham. That's an entirely separate matter, but there is no proposal to divert the current service that goes to Nottingham. Other than that, I've got no other further information for North Bingham.
Councillor Mooney, did you wish to comment on this one?
Yes, you sort of touched on two of my biggest bugbears. So I don't think enough attention gets paid into where buildings are placed in relation to floodplains. I find that a lot of these new houses tend to end up being flooded because of poor planning or just lack of consideration of the way which water flows. And the other being public transport. So if this is going to have an effect on either, once again, I don't have a vote, but I would have some objections to anything that might affect either of those things, because it's not just you're affecting the surrounding area. So you're affecting people who already live there and who already rely on services and who currently have a dry basement. Your plans are potentially going to affect other people, and that's the sort of thing that I think as a council we should be protecting.
So on this particular one, do we have no objection but concerns that the neighbouring area could flood the school?
That's exactly my concern.
So do you all agree no objection but with that concern raised?
Yes, I think that's fair.
Right. I think that comment should go for both the borough and the county application, Mr. Clark. The next one is 21/0051 ADV. That's Chesterfield Arms, Church Street. Display of number 4 external illuminated fascia signs, number 1 external illuminated projecting sign, and 2 non-illuminated vinyl film window signs. This is an amended plan.
John Stockwood.
Councillor John Stockwood.
Thank you very much. I think the amended plan reduces the actual number of signs. So in that sense, it's I think it has less impact on the historic building because there are fewer brand logos, should we call them? And there's on the amended plans. There's a big note saying we will very much definitely make sure that the new sign does not, which is illuminated, does not shine light into the flat windows, which is the proposed residential flats above. So I think they're taking on board some valid points about making sure that signs don't have an impact on the residential amenity of the new flats to be constructed, the new accommodation above. And I think a scheme that has slightly fewer brand logos will still advertise very clearly what the proposed use of the building is, but be more sympathetic to the history and heritage of the building. So I have no objection.
Is that the view of you all?
Yes.
Right, and in that case, then we go to, well, we've done the county council one. So that's correspondence received, Deputy Clerk. Just the one item to do a daisy chain.
That's correct, Chair. And it's just to, obviously, we did the NCC area. It's just we need to note the decisions in item 6 as well, please,
Right.
Chair.
So to consider notice to planning applications, that's Appendix D. Do I take those as read?
Yes.
Yeah.
We've done it. Item 7. I declare the meeting closed then at 19:46. And thank you for your attendance.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
Councillors.
Thank you.